when I got to Cambridge, I was like auditioning for all the different shows and like the Shakespeares and the this and the that. And I wasn't getting anywhere. And I just felt like I wasn't being cast and stuff because of how I sounded and because of like what I brought to certain roles.
I know most people who know you now will know you from The Fringe.
Yeah.
And your sold-out show at the Soho Theatre. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But I want to talk about the beginning. Like, growing up, were you always loud and, you know, out there and wanted to perform? Or was this something that grew with your experience at university, which is obviously what the show is based on?
Yeah, I definitely always knew I wanted to be an actor. And I'm a middle child.
Oh,
so like with that comes the territory of like, give me attention, everyone, come on. And so, yeah, I did like classes in like the local church hall from when I was quite young. And then when I was a bit older, I went to LIPA 419. I think it still exists. I think it's even a sixth form now, but that was after I was there. And I went there on Saturdays and then went to another Wednesday evening class. So like I was always in the city, like kind of doing things and doing different shows over there and stuff.
Amazing. And did you do much performing in Liverpool? Did you get like into the scene over there, or were you just doing it for fun?
No, yeah, we did some stuff. So I was like in the LIPA class, and then we do our like sing and dance and that, and I couldn't sing and I can't dance. And so we do these showcases where like you'd have to do all three, and it'd be like just performing like to the parents in the Paul McCartney like auditorium in LIPA. And I would just be like, please put me at the back, please. But I'd love the acting bits. Those bits, I'd be like, I knew that was my bag and I knew that I'd do well at that.
Yeah.
But like all the rest of it, I was just like, I think I was like Lord Farquaad in one of them.
And did you realise early on that you had like a knack for comedy, that you were genuinely funny?
I think so. Again, middle child thing.
Yeah.
Trying to get attention. And like, I do just think as well, like from where we're from, the humour is just so embedded. It's how we cope with things. And like with whatever's going on in like family life and chaos and all that kind of stuff, I think my family always dealt with it with humour.
Humour, yeah.
And by always like kind of going back to that. And so, I think I naturally had kind of funny bones. And then I was given the opportunity to do a bit of stand-up when I was about 16.
Wow.
Through LIPA, through one of the directors there. And I just caught the bug for it, and I was like, oh, I'm actually good at this. And like, I'd just watch loads of videos and copy how they'd like hold the microphone and would like talk to the audience and be a bit cheeky. And I think I still love that, even as an actor, when you've got like the prescribed lines that you have to say. I still love that essence of like knowing there's an audience there, because it is weird. Like, I find it strange as an actor to just like, when you're doing a play where you have to just completely ignore them, it's like...
You want to interact. You want the instant, like, was that good? Was that bad? What type of audience is this? You know what? You can change it, can't you, when you're doing a show?
Exactly,
The audience that you've got.
Whereas with stand-up, you can, like, do that every single night and you can change things and you can just, like, ad-lib and whatever. Whereas with plays, you can't do that, especially if, like, you're working with a different writer that isn't yourself. And if you're working with other actors on stage, like, obviously you can't be doing that. But I've kind of found this sweet spot where I've been able to create my own show.
A bit of both,
where I can do a bit of both.
Brilliant. And then the stand-up comedy bit, did you do that for a while? Was that like the plan? Like...
Not really. Like I did it a bit when I was 16, and then I'd stopped doing it, and then I was applying for drama schools, and we'll probably get onto that in a minute. But I didn't end up going to drama school, and then when I got to Cambridge, I was like auditioning for all the different shows and like the Shakespeares and the this and the that, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and I just felt like I wasn't being cast and stuff because of how I sounded and because of like what I brought to certain roles.
Yeah.
And I do think it was linked to class. Like
Really?
Yeah. I have got a chip on my shoulder, obviously, but also two things can be true at once. Jade Franks can have a chip on her shoulder and people can also be classist and typecast you based on like where you're from and how you sound. So I think I then used stand-up when I was at uni as a way to kind of tell my own stories and be like, well, if you're going to laugh at me anyway, I'd rather be the one telling the jokes.
Crack the jokes, yeah. I didn't know you did stand-up comedy first. I find that petrifying. I don't know how anybody would have the confidence to do that.
Yeah.
Especially with like, how did you deal with like hecklers and stuff? Did you just use it?
Tell them to shut up. Like I'm used to it. Like round the table at Christmas, everyone's just like, I think I learned quite early on how to tell people to be quiet and to listen to me. Love it.
So then I want to go back to, obviously, Eat the Rich is based on your experience at Cambridge. what made you want to go to Cambridge and not do the drama school thing? Was Cambridge the second choice? Drama school was always number one, and you fell back. What was the thinking around applying to Cambridge? Because that's such an intimidating thing to do.
Yeah, it's a bit mad. Yeah. And so I when I was 18 and in school, I applied for I think I applied for Oxford actually, and then like all the big universities, and I didn't get into any of them. And so then I was kind of forced to take a gap year, which ended up being, the best thing ever. And I do think that if you're not 100% on what you want to do, I would encourage young people to just take a break. And I know it's cringe to be find yourself, and not everyone can go to Bali and whatever else. But I worked
eat, pray, love moment.
Yeah, literally. But I worked in a call centre on Old Hall Street, and that was my eat, pray, love moment. I met all these really fun, exciting, lovely people, and earned a bit of money, and was able to just take that time out to think about what I wanted to do. And so I was then applying for drama schools. Some of them have, it's different now. This was 10 years ago, but some of them would only have one scholarship per year, or it would be a foundation course that I'd get onto, and the foundation courses aren't funded or weren't at the time. And so if you didn't have 15k in your back pocket, I got into some of these courses, and if you didn't have this money, then it was just kind of tough.
Yeah.
So I was doing that for about 3 years, and then I emailed Cambridge. I think I need to go back and look at the emails actually, but I genuinely think it was just the generic Cambridge info at whatever email. And about 6 months later, it had been bounced around, and then an outreach, I can't remember the exact title, but an outreach person emailed me, and he was like, I've read, the context of what school you went to, and your postcode and the grades that you got at A-level, and because I was asking him, should I do a history level in my spare time, so that when I do apply, I'm kind of in a better place. And he was like, no, you've got what you need to get in. You got the grades. But what I can help you with is seeing if it's for you. And so he brought me down on the train, stayed over, took me around everywhere. And then I kind of was just deciding whether it was for me or not. And the course was education and theatre. So I'd become so riled up by not getting into drama school, but not being able to afford to go, that I was like, the system's wrong.
Yeah.
So I read this book by Ken Robinson called Creative Schools, and it kind of made me think about the different ways of learning and how the system is kind of set up to fail those who, can't afford to be
don't
creative.
Fit a certain box,
I was lucky that my siblings, their hobbies that they had, that my mum and dad were supportive of, didn't really cost any money. My brother's sports and that, they just had to, pay whatever subs or whatever it was.
Yeah, a couple of quid a week.
Yeah, whereas going to Lipper was really expensive. And I remember my mum having a chat with my brother and sister about it and being like, look, I know it's unfair, but we are going to pay for Jade to go and do these classes. And they were thankfully sound with it. And it's that thing of if you can't do that, and if you can't invest, then you'll never be able to figure out whether or not that industry is for you, or whether you're good at it.
Yeah, unless you've got an in as well, or you've got an in. Which they always say it's who you know, which it shouldn't be who you know. It should be based on your talent.
And so then that brought me to the summertime, and I still hadn't applied. And then this guy emailed me again and was like, do you want to come down with your mum or your sister or a friend or whatever? And I was like, all right then, free trip to Cambridge, let's go,
Why
mum.
not?
So we were back on the Avanti West Coast, or I think it was Virgin at the time. And my mum just loved it, and we walked down. She'd never been before, and we walked down King's Parade, and she was just like, wow, if you can go here, then you should. And this guy was like, if you apply here, I'll be your director of studies, because it's just a coincidence that I'm doing outreach, but I'm also working with education and theatre students. And that just went over my head. I was like, okay, cool, sound. And then I was applying, and then he was the person in my interview.
Amazing. So you were already comfortable around
So I was already like, oh, that's such a relief. And and then I got in, and I was like, thank God for that.
That must have been so daunting though, to go from not being in education for a year and then somewhere so iconic as Cambridge.
But also you think it's this big grand place, but also I got there for my interview.
I've never been, to be fair.
I'll take you. We'll go at some point.
Let's go on a little field trip.
Yeah. So I got there in the day, and I'd booked one of the cheaper trains home. So I had to get that specific train, and you have to go via London as well. And then I got there, and they were like, oh, so your exam is at 4:00. And I was like, are you messing? What do you mean exam? I've not picked up a pen in 4 years. What do you mean exam? And then so because the college was really far away from where the exam was, so then they put me in an Uber, went down. I was like, well, you're going to have to pay for my train because I've got to miss it. And so then, and luckily, again, like, you can say it's luck, you can say it's whatever, but the paper was on James Baldwin, and I'd done loads of reading around him, and I just read this graphic novel that was to do with the civil rights movement. And so luckily I had materials to like talk about and to write about in this exam, but thank God, because...
So you didn't know there was an exam?
No, they didn't tell me. They told me that I wasn't having one, like, because, again, so unfair. Certain colleges have different rules for admissions. And so, like, you could apply to this college and have to do an exam, or you could apply to that college and not have to do an exam. In my college, for education at that time, you didn't need to, well, they told me I didn't need to. And then on the day, they were like, psych, go and do, yeah, literally. And then, well, luckily, smashed it. And here we are.
Yeah. Oh,
but yeah,
so funny.
It wasn't always like part of the plan. Like,
yeah,
I was aspirational in school, and like, hence why I applied for all them really good universities.
Why not?
But yeah, didn't get into them. So it was like the aspiration was here, but it just took me a bit more time to actually like catch up to them.
I do say it a lot, but the universe kind of did you a favour there, didn't it? Because you wouldn't have ended up in Cambridge and then, you know, where you are now.
Yeah.
You know, if all of that hadn't happened. But at what point did you think this experience is, I'm going to write about this, this is ridiculous?
Probably from the interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you were always in the back of your head, you were going to document your whole time there, did you think?
Yeah, I remember doing, like, I was really drunk after, like, the first night out. And I don't have, or I didn't definitely at the time have a big following, but I took it upon myself for about maybe, like, 3 days to become, like, this Cambridge influencer to back home. But this was before any of my, like, mates had, or, like, they weren't mates at the time, but any of my, like, course friends had followed me on Instagram. Yeah, it was, like, very early days. And I'd just be on front camera, like, all they play in the club is Macklemore, like, and the Cha-Cha Slide. Like, what is going on? I don't get it. And so I'd just be, like, live.
Taking the piss.
Yeah, live doing it to, like, my audiences at home. I don't know who I thought, and I've looked at them, they're so cringe. I think I deleted most of them, like, the morning after as well.
Still there.
But no, I've got them. I've still got them, but they're not posted. They were just, like, on a story.
That's brilliant.
But I went back to them when I was writing the play, because I was like, I need to revisit that feeling of, like, what is this place? And like, why does everyone seem like they know something I don't?
Yeah, there's this like the secret club I'm not in, and
yeah. And I think that what I know now, which I didn't at the time, is that a lot of other people feel that way there, and it might.
But
not
no
just
one
be
talks
because,
about it.
Yeah, it might not be because of class. It might be for other reasons, but no one talks about it, and so you end up in this environment where everyone feels alone, and then everyone gets really depressed, and it's just mad.
So when you left uni, what were you up to then? Well, when did you leave uni?
I left uni in 2021, and so...
You're still a baby.
But remember, I took 4 years out, so I'm older than people think I am.
Oh, was that hard then, being like one... Were you like one of the oldest people on your course as well?
Yeah,
Was that
I think
a bit
I was
weird?
the oldest. It was so weird, because like, you don't think the age gap between 18 and 22, like, is 4 years, but actually, like, those are such formative years that, like, some of those... students had like never been abroad on their own.
They never
before,
lived alone.
Never lived alone. Like all these
Cook
things
for themselves or anything. Yeah.
Whereas I was just like, I knew who I was a bit more, and I think I was just kind of like, what's going on? And then I say this to my friends now, so they won't mind me saying, but I'm like, I'd pick them out and be like, they've got potential. They'll be all right in a year, because most of them were so just like young and annoying.
Yeah.
And so was I, but just 4 years.
You're a bit older,
a little bit older. But yeah, love them all dearly now. But in first year, a lot of them, I was like,
over it. So okay, so you finished uni in 2021. So you had all this material from like your time there. Did you always know that you were gonna I'm gonna take this to the Fringe, or or were you a bit lost about what to do with all this material that you come up with?
It wouldn't be factual for me to say that, like, after spending 3 years in Cambridge and knowing now, like, the formula of you go to Fringe, you get in the footlights, you do this, you do your one-person show, and then you're off. Or, like, you do the showcase, you get signed, whatever. Like, I knew the formula now, but COVID disrupted that, and it meant that, like, the Footlights tour show didn't happen. No one went to America. No one went to the Fringe for 2 years. And, like, bear in mind, all these opportunities are paid for as well by, like, the colleges or by the societies. And so there was like a European Shakespeare thing that I got onto that I didn't do. There was a Footlights thing that I didn't get to do. And then there was like all the Fringe opportunities that didn't happen. And so I'm not complaining, because it's insane that anyone should even get those opportunities.
Yeah, it's mad
anyway. But like...
Because does that happen at any other universities?
I think there is some, yeah. I think
Yeah,
Oxford it happens, and I think there's other sketch groups like Durham and
Yeah.
Leeds, but they don't get near as much funding because everyone kind of knows each other a little bit. Like they have like a sketch off at Fringe, and like everyone kind of gets to know each other. It's hilarious. But I don't think they get near enough support as what Cambridge does. But I guess with that, so it meant that like my year kind of missed out a bit of that. And then everyone's just kind of catching up now, I think.
Yeah.
But I then knew the formula. So once I'd like been writing at Cambridge for however many years, and I did like this stand-up version of Eat the Rich to 17 people because everyone had to sit socially distanced.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And I did it like as a back-to-back split bill with my friend Dan Bishop, who also took a play to Fringe called Brain Sluts. And so it's been really full circle to have like done that together and now
that's so nice.
to have gone to Fringe together. But we did that, and then I adapted it to make it into a play. But yeah, I knew that what the thing was going to be, and I knew that I needed to take it to Fringe for it to have an impact.
And then I'm really interested in the process of taking it to the Fringe, because like not that people don't take it seriously. I don't want to say that people don't, but you made some real drastic changes to your life in order to get to the Fringe.
Yeah. So after uni, I was like, shit, I need a job. And in order to like pressurize myself to get a job in London in theatre, I just moved down, like straight from Cambridge with a suitcase, moved. And my sister was like, you can stay on my couch for 2 weeks, but she had like she lived in Homerton, and it was like this tiny flat with her mate Alex, and the living room was like basically in the kitchen, like it was all just one tiny little thing. So I was just sleeping in the kitchen essentially. I was like, it'll be 2 weeks, I'll get a job. I was there for 6 months. And I was like, I owe them to so like big time. But I was also like couch surfing, like staying at my fellas at the time and staying at other friends and stuff. So I was like living out of a backpack for a lot of that period. It's quite stressful. And then I eventually got a job at the Royal Court as an admin assistant on the education team. And so that was where I really learnt my craft in theatre making and, you know, new writing and knowing how stuff gets put on. And through them, I got to go up to the Fringe to see other stuff. So I had an opportunity to like just watch loads of plays, really.
Just take it all in.
And take it all in, yeah. And then I started writing a bit. And then it wasn't until I was made redundant from that job that I was like, fuck.
What am I going to do now?
What am I going to do?
So then you moved back to Liverpool as well at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, so I freelanced for about a year in 2024, which was just not a good time. Like it was just so stressful. And I was just like, my mental health was in the bin, and like I just couldn't do it anymore. Like, and with everything else in London, it's like a 24-hour city. So like, if you are feeling low, there's like you can go out.
Oh yeah,
and you can think that that's the thing that's gonna, you know, cheer you up and sort you out and whatever else. But it's not.
It's a short-term fix for a long-term problem.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I had to really do a lot of like self-work and all that kind of stuff that like kind of roll my eyes at it, but I'm like, no, it kind of did save my life. Like, yeah. And so I was like, right, enough's enough. I've got to go back and move in with my mum and dad. I've got such anxiety now. This is just a side note from this conversation, but of like all the sick stuff's happening. It's like my brain's finding reasons of like why it's not going to happen, why it's going to get taken away from me. Do you know what I mean?
I went to the embassy today and I was like, she's going to find a parking ticket from like 15 years ago. I didn't pay and they're not going to let me in America.
Yeah.
She asked me 2 questions and went, approved. Me?
Little old me. I'm going to New York.
I think we all do it because you can't believe it. You can't believe it, can you?
Yeah.
That's it. You can't believe. You say you luck, but it's your hard work. You've worked for it. You didn't just get handed it on a plate. Yeah.
And I think I've become better at recognising that as well as like time's gone on.
But I don't know whether that's a northern thing as well, of like you can't go, I do actually deserve this.
Yeah.
Why can't we do that?
Yeah. Innit?
It's stupid.
Because the people who do that are the people who have like told themselves that because they feel bad about the fact that their dad actually helped them get there or their dad's mate works in whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Or they didn't actually work that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to sound like a really stupid question. How do you put a show on at the Fringe? Like, I've heard that there are shows in like cupboards. The Fringe is a minefield to me, so explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
I mean,
it's a place where there's lots of plays.
Lots of plays, lots of laughing. I'm not saying that I know everything about the Fringe, but I can tell you from my experience
tell me.
Doing it at uni.
And how you set it up, like, because I can set up a shoot.
Yeah.
But the Fringe I find really baffling just because of the whole of it, like, just all seems a bit mad.
It does feel, well, I think that you need to go up and see it and experience it before you put a show on there. I have got a lot of respect for, like, especially the international artists that just come over, may never have been to the UK before, let alone Edinburgh, let alone Edinburgh during the Fringe, and will just, like, figure it out. Whereas I think I'd been 3 times. First time when I was in uni, where I was, like, producing stuff. I think I produced, like, 3 shows. It was, it was crazy. I just kind of took it and was like, yeah, I can do this.
I'll do this.
Mental. I had, like, 7 lanyards. It's so cringe. Yeah, then with the Royal Court, I went up, I think maybe once or twice, to, like, see shows. And so by that point, I knew what venues kind of did what. They all do different stuff. So one's known more for, like, artsy theatre with, like, a capital T. Others more, like, comedy theatre, comedy leaning. And then other stuff is, like, just straight stand-up.
Right.
And then you also learn, like, what time of the day
a good time
is for what it is you're doing. Because, like, some people might absolutely smash it at, like, a 2 p.m, and then some people might really struggle to do the same show at 10 p.m. because people have had a drink. People, you know, might be a slightly different audience, like whatever. There's all these factors that, like, you need to kind of consider. And I'd say the other thing is you do need a lot of money if you're going to do it and you're going to be recognised. Really, yeah. The accommodation is insane. Like, if you want to live comfortably, that's why we ended up in, like, didn't make any money, because we were like, with respect, I don't want to share a bed for a month.
Oh, God, no.
With what are essentially my colleagues. Like, they are my mates. But, like, where else would you be asked to share a bed
Never.
with your, like, colleague on a work trip? It's not appropriate, do you know what I mean?
No, of course.
And so we were really, like, dead set on being like, we all want our own bed. We all want our own room. We need to feel like
we want some basic human rights.
Literally. And I think people forget, if you work in the arts, we need some human rights, please. Please. And so, yeah, our accommodation was sorted and our trains were sorted by, like, our producer, Jasmine, who was, like, sorting it all out. But that then meant when we got the money back from our ticket sales, which luckily we sold out and we put on extra shows. But if we hadn't have done that, like, that's like an anomaly, really, in Fringe.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen.
Often it won't happen. And that's fine, because you come away and you've learnt loads as an artist.
Yeah.
But what that now means is, like, the only people that can now go up there and afford to fail and afford to not make any money and can afford for it to not be this massive success are the people who've got the financial backing, or someone with a flat in Edinburgh, or, you know,
so it's got a connection. Yeah. And then what was it like as the Fringe was happening, like, to see the response, the buzz around it? Because there was a buzz in London about it. Did you know going to Edinburgh, this is the dogs, we've got something here? Or was it?
I don't think, not to the extent of what happens. Like, I hoped that we have a good run, and I really hoped that I'd get a writing agent out of it and that I'd be able to start television conversations. What I didn't think would happen would be that when the TV festival was up, there was literally people, like, outside the door saying that they'd buy a ticket for £200 off someone.
I had people messaging me before we even knew each other. I think just because you're a Scouser and I'm a Scouser, any chance you know anyone can get me into Jade Franks in the Fringe? I'm like, well, I'm not there and I don't even know her, so how am I going to do that for you?
You know what, though? If you'd have messaged me and was like, hiya, I'm Sam, I'm from Liverpool, like that, I'd have been like, yeah, babe, no worries, front row, I'll sort you out.
But no, that must have been lovely to be able to, like, put on extra shows and be like, God, this was actually worth the gamble. I mean, moving back out, like, everything.
Yeah, because I moved back home, I stopped drinking, like, I went completely sober and I just, like, locked in, basically.
Yeah, like, you know, and assuming, like, your mental health recovered somewhat as well, like, that's a lot to take on. That's a lot to put on yourself.
Yeah, well, I kind of just felt like I've got to do it now. I was getting bored of myself. I was like, come on.
I'm doing my own head in.
I'm doing my head in. Why aren't I massively successful and writing TV shows for Netflix? Why hasn't it happened? So I had to go and do it. And then, but obviously it's like, it's not just me. It's nice that I get a lot of the recognition, but I've got an amazing producer.
A really strong team.
The director, Tatenda Shimiso, icon. Like, he did a one-person show at the Royal Court, and that's how we kind of came into contact. And he worked on For Black Boys, which was a play that, like, took the West End by storm, and me and Jasmine also worked on it. And so we had all these connections that we built in those years in theatre that I worked in for, like, 2.5 years there, building those connections, meeting those people. And then when it was my time to put on a piece of work, I knew the exact people that would be perfect for it. And Ellie Fulcher as well, who also worked at the Royal Court, drama tagged in. So I had this, like, amazing group of mates. And
you've got your tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what we did when me and Phil set something up. we knew exactly who we wanted to work with us because we just worked with some brilliant people. And you're like, right, when we're doing something, we'll grab them, we'll grab them, we'll grab them. And that's, you collect people, don't you?
Yeah.
You did the show. It did amazing. Did you book the Soho Theatre before you finished the Fringe, or did you come back and be like, right, let's take this on tour?
We kept
Give the people what they want.
We kept joking throughout like the rehearsal process and stuff, and like through Fringe, like, well, when we get to Soho, we'll be able to do it like this, or like that's for the Soho run, and now we're saying that's for the West End run, that's for Broadway. Like,
I love
we
it.
just keep saying things
Why
like
not?
as a joke until it happens. So we were joking about Soho when we were at the Fringe, and then it wasn't until afterwards that like they came and saw it, they were really nice about it, and then they offered us a slot.
So I want to talk a little bit about the process of getting an agent as well. So you went to the Fringe without one, and then was it just the popularity of the show, people came to see you and you just had an influx of people saying like, sign with me, I'm the best? Is that kind of how it happened?
Pretty much, yeah. And again, going back to like the Cambridge connections and stuff, a lot of people who I went to uni with now work in, agencies as assistants.
Because you were in on a course of a similar, similar vein. So
yeah. And a lot of like the English students as well. Like it's just kind of people who are interested in the arts. A lot of them end up working as like development assistants or, so like at that level. And so they're all the ones that
insiders.
Yeah. And like, I was lucky that my friends who had like seen the preview then shouted it to like all of their other like assistant friends, and they've all got like group chats and stuff. And like, that's really the way. Because like
assistant network is so powerful.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it is. And like, they're often super nice, and like they're all there. They're up for a good time. Like, they're a little bit less jaded perhaps than the older agents that are up there. Like, so connecting with them was really fun, and it was just lovely to kind of hang out with them, and then they'd go back to the like more senior agents and be like, I saw this show, I thought it was really great, whatever. And so and there was loads of agents who after it sold out were like, we need to get in.
Yeah.
But I ended up signing with 2 agents that weren't at Fringe and didn't say it.
No way.
Yeah, which is quite funny. I sent them the video.
Yeah.
But it just ended up that way because I'm just so led by gut instinct and like by when you sit down with someone, and if you can feel comfortable in how you're sat, and like if you're not tensed up and your jaw's not clenched or whatever. And the agents I ended up signing with, I had that feeling with them.
You picked 2 good eggs. Shout out Alex and Rich.
Yeah, shout out Alex and Rich.
So then, obviously, I know what happened next because we were slightly involved in that. Did you ever think that this was going to be a TV show? Did you write it knowing it was going to be a TV show? Or was this like just a really lovely thing that happened post-Fringe?
When I was writing the play, I did know that I wanted it to be a TV show. And so like I'd leave little threads for characters to like not be like delved into just like enough, like leave people wanting more basically. Yeah. So I'm excited to kind of expand it and see where I can take it.
We're so excited.
And you were the first TV meeting that I had.
I know. And I was like, when I found out afterwards that we were the first people you met. And I was like, well, we're screwed, aren't we? Because she's going to go and meet like the last person is probably always the one that's in the forefront of your head. So it was obviously, we loved meeting you, but I thought, she's going to go meet all these big, because we're small in comparison to everybody else that you met. But as soon as we met with you, we rang our friends over at Netflix and we're like, guys, we just met this. What do you reckon? And they were like, we were dying to see it. We're in. And then we didn't even know you were going to pick us at that point, but we'd orchestrated this whole thing in case by any chance you said yes, so we could go, ta-da!
Oh my God, that's so mad. And because I just sat down again. That thing, I felt comfortable. I felt like it just felt right. Yeah, and I didn't know that Phil was coming. No, and so it was you and George, and I was like, we were just like chatting, vibing, whatever. Yeah. And then Phil Barantini in his cap and his long
famous cap, because he was in the edit at the time on Enola, and we were like, look, we'll position it so it's literally around the corner, but you'll learn what it's like in post. There's dramas every day, so he was like, I'll do my best, but don't say I'm come just in case I can't. I hate to like let you down. So that's why we didn't say, because I was like, like I said, I didn't want to let you down. So when he turned up, I was like, oh, thank God for that.
I was like, it's so funny now, because now that I know him better, I'm like, why was I like, I was so like starstruck. I was like, he's just won an Emmy. What the hell?
And now he's won a Golden Globe.
And now he's won a Golden Globe.
I know.
No, he's so down to earth and normal.
He's just like us, Jade.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
So normal. Yeah, I don't think he was actually probably meant to come out that day, but he's like, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So no, it was good.
And that meant a lot because I was like, whoa, they must... Because also during this period of time, there was people who were being really complimentary and blowing smoke up my arse. And like, it was hard for a minute to figure out who was doing it because they genuinely were invested in the work and saw the potential of it and knew what I was trying to do with it. And then the other people that were just kind of like jumping on because they heard that I was having meetings with them, and they wanted
we should
to have
one.
And like, you know, and so while I was like navigating that and figuring out where, like, you know, what felt right, meeting you guys straight away, I was just like, well, fuck. And now I've got to do all these like million other meetings. And the first one, I had like a brilliant...
Because I spoke to Alex and like afterwards, and I'd said, oh, what's your good meet? And I said, but don't say anything yet. I said, we want Jade to go and meet everyone because she deserves to go see who's out there and who her people are. I said, we hope it's us, but she's got to make that decision. We don't want to come out with, with a Netflix partnership and be like, boom, pick us. We've got this because of the Netflix thing.
And that's another reason why I was like, they're such sound good people, because I needed that as well. Like, I'm early on in that career of the TV and film world, and so having the opportunity to meet everyone. To tell them about other ideas that I've got, for them to say to me, if it's not this one, then we'd love to still work with you, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've now made all these lovely connections with people. Now. Yeah. Whereas, it could have easily been like, nope, us, come on. And I would have been like, la, 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 okay, Netflix, like, let's go.
It's important that you do that because, like you say, like, I don't know what's in your head. I'm sure you've got like a million ideas and not all of them will fit with us. We'll want to go work with lots of other people. I mean, we hope that you stay and work with us for as long as possible, but, you know, it's important that you do have all that. You have that network now. So good.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is mad. I'm the same. I'm like you. When we first set up and we were doing all the meetings, you're like, why are they meeting with me? It's mad, isn't it? Me and Phil keep saying we've got to stop saying mad.
It's mad. I keep saying that. I'm like, this is so mad. Me having a pint with Margot Robbie the other day. This is mad. This is so mad.
That is mad. And I'm gutted I wasn't there that night.
I know.
So talking about the TV show, yes, I'm excited to expand the world because, like you say, the show is such a great tease, and there's so many brilliant characters, but it's like beyond that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm excited for. What about you?
Same.
Yeah,
and also the music.
Yeah,
I think it's teased in the play when you watch it. I guess you can't see that from reading the script, but there's a lot of like choral stuff. There's some drum and bass that kind of represents this other world that I didn't really know about because I grew up with like house music, like Scouse House, going to Med every Wednesday, like that kind of energy.
I'm a bit older than you. I didn't do that, but I was more Concert Square.
Oh yeah,
051, that kind of thing.
But it's just like different, isn't it? And so I love the idea of Med in those worlds, and I'm really excited to work with some cool artists on like what the music would be for the show. And the way I write as well, I do write listening to stuff. And so if...
Music is so important.
So
important. So then, because you started out in comedy, and obviously comedy is a big part of what you do, are there any comedians now who you're like in love with, who we should all look out for? Who's making you laugh right now?
Ayoade Bongboye, definitely. She was at Fringe, and that's where I kind of knew of her before, but we met properly at the Fringe, and she went on to win the Fringe, essentially. She's such a queen. And she's on at Soho after me as well, so it's just been quite full circle and nice. She's so funny.
Yeah.
Will Owen, also very funny. Went to uni with him, and he's just flying. Like, I love his comedy. Hassan Al-Habib, Rohan Sharma.
Nice.
They're my other top people. They're the people that I shouted out at Fringe as well.
Yeah.
At the end of the
that's
show.
nice.
They're all just hilarious people.
I'll definitely take a look at them because they're all new to me. Yeah. I'm old school comedy.
Do you see a lot of stand-up?
I try to. I've got tickets to Joanne McNally. But yeah, I try. Like, I'm big Ellis and John fans. And then they record in the studio, which I absolutely love. But I'm a big podcast, like comedy podcast.
Yeah.
Is
the Off Menu podcast.
Oh, so good.
I hope one day to be on that podcast.
Have you got any advice for people who want to do what you did? You know, create work from scratch, you know, write the theme tune, sing the theme tune, put on the show. Like, how can they do it? Like,
I wish I could say, just do it. But you have to have the time and the resource and the space to be able to do it. And for me, that looked like going home and living with my parents and working in a school for a bit and, you know, have been fortunate enough to not have to pay my parents rent during that period. That's what I had. That's what it looked like for me. For other people, that might look different, and it might be harder than that, or it might be slightly easier than that. But I think just doing something every day that brings you closer to getting that idea out there. Like, I would sit, and when I was the summer before Fringe, the summer of Fringe, I was working in a school doing exam invigilating. And I would stand there for an hour just staring at the wall. And obviously you're not allowed your phone on you or not because you're in an exam. These kids are doing like GCSE science. And I'm thinking about jokes in my head and like giggling to myself thinking, oh yeah, that said funny, that I'll put that in the play. And then having to try and remember it and write it down afterwards. So like for me, it looked a bit like that where like you'd be doing something every day, whether that be writing for 10 minutes or thinking about it or daydreaming about it before you go to bed. Like the amount of times that I have daydreamed about what the TV show of it looks like, my dream casting, like what it would look like on this West End stage, or like imagine where I'd be if I went to New York and put it on. Like just even if you can't write down, if you don't have the time or the space or the energy or the capacity to do anything else, just daydream about it and just
keep imagining it happening.
Keep imagining it happening until it does.
Is that manifesting?
I guess it is manifesting. Yeah, I think it is. Shout out to all the manifesting girlies out there. Love.
And is there anything that you would do differently? Obviously, what you did got you to where you are now, so that's great. But is the bit to be like, I could have done that better, or I should have done that? Is there anything you would have done any different?
I mean, probably not, because I am where I am now. But like, I did have this feeling probably since I was 16 of like, oh, it should have been sooner. Like, I'm just impatient, I think.
Yeah. And
like from that age, I don't think I touched on this earlier, but even for sixth form, I'd got into a drama college in Chester and I couldn't afford to go. And so like, even from that really early age, it was always that thing of like, oh, well, I'm just going to have to like go round the back and do it that way and find another way. And so I feel like for the past 15 years, I've been finding other ways of doing things that for other people, it's quicker and easier.
If you've got the money, it's a straight... Yeah, it's
exactly.
a straight line.
And so although I wouldn't change anything, it just would have been a bit nicer to have...
would have been a bit easier.
And a bit easier to have been able to like live comfortably in my early 20s. But who can do that, do you know what I mean?
Oh.
That'd be in a dream version.
Do you know what? Mind. There would have been something else in your early 20s that would have gone sideways.
Yeah.
Should I talk about the elephant in the room? Guys, she's not actually from Liverpool.
Guys, us cameras are looking to that one.
But we chose to ignore that because she's still brilliant. And it's literally 2 minutes over the water.
This actually isn't going round
public service announcement.
Jade Franks is a wool. The thing is, right, I can't win because...
You've got a more Scouse accent than me.
I can't win.
But everyone's going to call me a wool now. I am actually from Liverpool. I haven't got a purple wheelie bin, but I am from Liverpool.
I haven't got a purple wheelie bin. But I think if I get enough cash over to be able to buy somewhere, I would buy in Liverpool because I just love the city so much. And I think...
it's epic.
Yeah. Like going to Lippert all the time growing up. Like I was there, I spent so much of my time there, and I worked in the Waterstones in town, and I worked in the call centre in town. So I was like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think it is funny.
That's where everybody goes. Like you're not like, I'm going to go to town, and you mean Birkenhead.
Leave Birkenhead alone, actually. I will die on the hill of Birkenhead because I also worked in the Birkenhead Waterstones. And we used to go out in town.
Do you call it town?
Downtown. Some people call downtown, yeah.
You call Birkenhead downtown?
I just call it Birko. But yeah, I can't win because whenever I'm outside of Merseyside, it's like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, if I say Wallasey, everyone's going to be like, what? Or if you say Wirral, they're like, oh, you're dead posh then. And I'm like, well, not really, no. But I guess it's all relative to whatever. Like, I guess growing up, I thought that I was posh compared to like some people in my school or some of my mates.
There's always someone worse off than you.
Yeah. But then when you leave that environment, you realise that like, oh, I'm not posh at all, actually. No. And then everyone was like, oh, you're obviously like a Scouse from Liverpool, whatever. And by the end of it, you're just like, yeah, fine, whatever.
Whatever.
And then you come back and everyone's like, you're not a Scouse. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you are. You are. I want to talk about your family. So what do they think of all of this? Because I know like my family just think it's mad what I like. What I do. Don't fully probably understand everything that we have to go through in order to do it.
Yeah.
I'd just be like, oh, watch that thing I made.
Yeah, it goes from being like people saying things like, when are you going to be on the telly? When are you going to be on Coronation Street? Like, when this, when that?
Yeah.
And then you're like, because you're just trying to put on like a little play at uni, and they're like, there's this like pressure to be like on TV. No, they're dead proud. And I think now that it's something tangible, like they can like pick up the Guardian weekend paper and buy the Guardian for the first time in their lives and like read it and see something and see my face. Like, they now kind of get it.
All that hard work was for something.
Whereas for years and years and years, I've just been like off in London doing whatever Jade does. Like, we're proud of you. Been like cheering me on from the sidelines, or like whatever play I've been doing, whether it be like a young company play with Stratford East, which is something that I did for a couple of years, or whether it be like something much smaller and more weird and artsy and niche. They'd still be like, yeah, go on, Jade. Like, you can do it.
And did they come to Fringe? Did they see the show?
Yeah, they did. They did. And my Auntie Joy was there a day that all the reviewers were in. And she was kind of giving like director's cut commentary, whatever you fucking call it, to the guy next to her who was reviewing her. Yeah. And there was a moment where like I was doing the bit about the character called Greg.
Yeah.
And my Auntie Joy like taps the reviewer and is like, that's her ex-boyfriend. And I had to stop the show and I was like, shut up. And everyone was like howling. But I don't know, it's things like that I think make it a lot nicer, and because of the kind of show it is, like I can do that and I can interact with my family who are like on the front row.
I found that like when we saw the show, there were a few things that obviously not went wrong, but you were like, they weren't scripted, but you just rolled with it and worked with it. And
I fell off my chair, didn't I? Did you see that?
You made it work though.
Thank you. And then everyone was laughing so much. Everyone was proper laughing.
We were all having the best time ever.
So I had to like power through. I was like, can everyone shut up?
I know.
I love it.
And when they were in, or did you know when they were coming in?
Well, I could see them. Fringe was like a 56-seater.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And the lighting was...
I was going to say, did you feel like, I don't want to say this in front of me dad, or like...
Yeah, because there is a direct quote in the play, which is something that he said. And it's not the nicest thing that someone's ever said to me.
Yeah.
And it's just about like going away and changing and like coming back and people not being happy about it, basically, but in a much more cutting way. But I changed it in the play for it to be like, everyone at home said this, but actually it was verbatim something that, was quite, hurt, and it was said in an argument and whatever. It is what it is, isn't it? You get
but also it's very true. Like that is one of the huge things that I related to with the play, was that you move to create this new life, to live your dream, and then when you go home you're like, oh, I'm not that version of me who I used to be. I'm also not quite the person I moved away to try and be. I'm a bit lost in both worlds. So I totally get it.
Yeah. And then there's a certain like, I don't know, a certain feeling of like, oh, if your accent changes, or if like you're suddenly wearing a tie and you look like an English supply teacher, or whatever it was I said when I came in this morning, or if you're wearing a collar up it, do you know what I mean?
I look like some weird Victorian, I don't know what I'm doing here, but hey.
But do you know what I mean? Like if like subtle things changing of like your fashion sense, or like I've had about 7 Joe in the Juices this week. That's not normal.
Who do you think you are?
I know. My friends for my birthday, they got me a Joe and the Juice gift card. So really, I've just been like redeeming them. Yeah. But like, again, that's something that like...
You would never.
I would never go to Joe and the Juice. Like, I'd never eat stuff like that.
I know. When I started having alternative milks, I think my mum was like, yeah, no, I'm done. I'm not subscribing to that.
I know. My mum just gets dead confused. So, look, God bless her. She just buys every kind of milk. So you open the fridge, you've got lactose-free, almond, coconut, soya,
on all basis,
gluten-free oat, semi-skimmed and skimmed. She's a worried woman. She's like, I've got to get it right. And I'm like, I don't really
trying
drink
to be
milk.
a good host, isn't she?
I know. And I'm always bringing random people. I'm like, you've got to come to Liverpool. You've got to come to New Brighton. You've got to come to Wallasey. It's the best place in the world. But yeah, I'm always bringing like friends from wherever up to Liverpool. And like, there's always a random person
that's so nice,
at Christmas that we've just invited. So that's the kind of energy in my household.
Oh, that's lovely. I suppose being like, there's been 3 of you as well. It's used to having a house full.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right. In order to join this club, we need you to admit to like a rogue film that you come back to over and over again, or a TV show that you constantly watch, but it can't be any no cool answers allowed, please. You've got to be honest with us.
Okay.
And something that people won't expect from you.
Shrek 2.
Okay.
Shrek 2. That's
okay.
It. Actually, Shrek 1.
Why 2? I get this because mine's Grease too.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, watch it.
I think it's
and then you'll
hard to
know.
do a sequel. I think it's really, really hard. And going back to Fringe, there was something on at Fringe called Shrek. What was it called? Swamplesque. And it was like a cabaret Shrek on stage, tits out.
Love it.
Brilliant. It was so good. So that's what I'm plugging here today.
Okay, love that.
Swamplesque.
Love
That's all I
that.
talk about. You can cut that out if you want.
No, leave it in. Leave it in. Shrek 2. I would never have.
It's a beautiful story about
I
inner
don't even
beauty.
think I've seen Shrek 2.
Haven't you? It's really
I've
good.
seen Shrek 1. But yeah. I maybe feel I was too old to be watching
But they've done
Shrek.
more after then, and
Yeah.
so I think it's kind of fell off towards the end.
Yeah.
But
Well, maybe I'll stick it on my list.
yeah.